Are you listening?
All right, 3, 2, 1.
Was just a website that I coded myself from the ground up.
I'm the loud, fluffy, flirty guy that likes the colorful lights and enjoys hearing myself talk. So of course I'm going to be, I became the podcast host, I think on my third episode of guesting on the podcast.
When it comes to Stadia news, very few do it as well as the team behind StadiaSource.com. Whether it be Let's Plays, live streams, roundtable podcast, or just talking about the news, Stadia Source has assembled some of the most unique and talented voices in the gaming community. On today's show, we sit down with Dan and Avery from StadiaSource.com to discuss how Stadia Source got started, their brand new venture Gaming Source Network, along with, well, you guessed it, the future of Google Stadia. So sit back, relax, and enjoy a conversation with Stadia Source.
Welcome back to the Nerf Report. We are joined by a very special guest today, the Stadia Source very own Dan Wheeler and Avery Krause. Thank you guys so much for being here. Yeah, I'm really excited about this because, every single time I get to come on your show, we have a great conversation on the roundtable. We always jump into the latest and greatest Stadia news. And then after the show, we have a conversation that the audience isn't privy to, which is a million times more in depth, in focus, and we share all the industry secrets. So I just wanted to have you guys on the show to recapture that kind of magic that we all have going on.
Fantastic. Well, hey, we're glad to be here. And we love having you on the show, even if I can never pronounce your name correctly.
Chappell, Sheeple. By the end of this interview, we will get it. Well, for people who may not be aware, what is Stadia Source?
So basically, to begin with, Stadia Source was just a website that I coded myself from the ground up. Me being a web developer in my spare time, I've been doing it probably over 10 years now. And I just wanted it to be like, I'll go all the way back to when I first saw the announcement for Stadia. Obviously, we all saw that announcement when Google unveiled Stadia for the first time. I hadn't really heard too much about it, if I'm honest. I hadn't really even heard about the beta before that, the Assassin's Creed beta. I thought I'd tune in anyway and just have a look and see what it was about. And I just remember watching it and being blown away by what I was seeing, like the fact that you didn't need a console to play potentially AAA games. And I feel like I mention this on pretty much every single show I do, but I also I used to run an Xbox website called Xbox Resource. I don't run it anymore. I handed it to a friend and he did nothing with it since, but it never kind of gained the traction that I wanted it to gain, purely because I think I was a bit late to the party. I didn't kind of subscribe to Microsoft until the Xbox 360, like halfway through its lifespan. So by the time obviously I set Xbox Resource up, there was plenty of other Xbox websites doing what I did, but better and more established. So part of me saw an opportunity to jump into a space that was currently uninhabited. And obviously with all the experience I had from building the websites, I knew I could build something pretty awesome. And I did, and I ran it by myself for a few weeks or months until I gradually started to form a team of people, one of which is sat beside me now. And we've kind of expanded out from there. We've incorporated like a YouTube channel so that we can do podcasts and live gameplay, live streams, and just basically any avenue that we can fill to bring Stadia news, reviews, our opinions just to the masses. Because one of the biggest things obviously we see in the news, the gaming media anyway, is like a lot of negativity or non-facts when it comes to Stadia. And obviously we play Stadia almost day in and day out between us all. So we wanted to obviously dispel some of those rumors and myths and just show people the light, if you will, I guess. And just be the number one source for Stadia news and reviews. And I think we've been pretty successful at doing that.
Now, I'm glad you brought up the website, because I think as far as, and I'll probably get in trouble by some people for saying this, but I think as far as the Stadia community goes, or even Stadia goes, I gotta say Stadia Source, I think, is one of the best websites out there. Not only can you track down news, you can also see what games are coming or what games are available. You can keep track of your trophies. I use you guys for some of my research sometimes. Like if I'm doing a show where I'm talking about what games are coming to Stadia, Stadia Source is the first website that I go to, and I pull up upcoming games and I'm like, okay, that one, that one, that one. So, I mean, kudos to you. I mean, it's a fantastic website.
Thank you very much. And I mean, in terms of the website, I mean, I run a lot of it myself. There's things like all the games management and all the achievements and stuff. I'm the sole programmer when it comes to the website. And I obviously have, like I said, a team of people that help me do the news and reviews and things like that. And then obviously I've got the people that help me with the YouTube as well. But in terms of the actual website, a lot of what you see on the website is just purely me. You know what I mean? I've built that. I maintain it. I maintain all the games, all the sales, all of the videos, all of the pictures and all sorts. So, and I think that's just, it's not that I don't trust anybody else to do it. I'm just so used to doing it myself that, you know what I mean? And I want it done a specific way. And obviously it's hard to find people that, I mean, there's plenty of programmers out there, but it's hard to find people that code the way that I code, if you know what I mean. It's when you make something, to kind of have somebody else learn it and do it your way is really hard to find. So I guess I'll take credit for the website.
Which is not something that Dan likes to do. One of the challenges that I faced with coming on board the team is I'm the loud, fluffy, flirty guy that likes the colorful lights and enjoys hearing myself talk. So of course I'm going to be, I became the podcast host, I think on my third episode of guesting on the podcast. And most of that was Dan going, yes, somebody else can have it. Great. Take it off my hands. But then it becomes, when people think Stadia Source, I have to press people to think Dan Wheeler, because when you're looking at, obviously the YouTube channel, Stadia Source and now Gaming Source Network has my face on it because I'm the loud guy in the top left corner. But there would be no Gaming Source Network on YouTube or Stadia Source before that without Dan doing the awesome things that he does on the code side. We've had folks from other platforms, NVIDIA. And as you heard in the announcements on the first, we're bringing GeForce Now Source into the fray as well, and they on their meetings with us are like, "You did all this on this website? This is really awesome!" And these are people who know their tech, so he doesn't take enough credit, and I have to push him to do so. It's one of the reasons I always say thank you for being on your podcast at the end, because it's Dan's channel. It's Dan's show as the president, CEO, czar, emperor of Gaming Source Network. He doesn't take enough credit for himself. So I'm actually really good to have this opportunity to embarrass him and make him turn even more red than his hair and beard would allow.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned it, Avery. Last week, you guys announced the brand new umbrella company, if you will, above Stadia Source called Gaming Source Network. So let's dive into that. What is your vision with this brand new opening for you guys? And what are you kind of thinking that you're going to do?
Take over the world.
Pretty much. For us, this has been a months-long process for us. We started poking around this idea maybe end of last year into beginning of this year, thinking, okay, well, we see, GeForce Now, the NVIDIA folks are awesome. They're reaching out to creators. They're working with creators. The Luna folks are working with creators. Xbox has their ambassadors program. There's so much out there where these gaming companies are wanting to bring the community in more to the forefront. And so we said, we love Stadia. We're going to continue to love Stadia. StadiaSource.com is not going anywhere. We've added GeForce Now Source to go with it as an additional platform for that news. But when you have a channel, do we just say, okay, well, this channel is just Stadia and GeForce Now, and that's all it is. And so it's Stadia/GeForce Now Source on YouTube. That kind of doesn't really work. And so, as I'm sure as Scarlett spoke about last week, the branding concept behind this was, well, we want to be the number one source for all things gaming, not just Stadia, not just GeForce Now. Obviously, we're taking it slow. We're not launching, we didn't launch Linux Source and PS Now Source and Nintendo Source and, Pinball Source or whatever all at the same time. We don't have any plans to do that immediately, but on the network, at least on YouTube, we've got a little bit more flexibility. We've got one of the big announcements last week was, of course, Rock coming on board the channel, and we can certainly get into talk about that. And he's got shows that don't fit the just Stadia, just GeForce Now mold, like Cloudburst. I've got shows in the works. We've got a lot of stuff in the works right now. We've got even more surprises coming up, both Stadia related and not Stadia related. But this gives us an opportunity to really explore all of that. Not to mention, my stream team, I call them the Stream Team Dream Team, are fantastic streamers that love Stadia. And you can see it every time they go live on Stadia. But a lot of them have GeForce Now. And a lot of them have very robust Steam libraries, and they have their Nintendos and their Xbox and their PlayStation, and they're subscribed to Game Pass Ultimate and all these other things. And I don't want to say that Stadia was limiting us, but I want to say that moving up and encompassing Stadia and GeForce Now and other platforms just expands us, and it just gives us so much more opportunity than we had just under Stadia Source. But Stadia Source is not going anywhere. StadiaSource.com is still going to be your number one source for Stadia news and reviews. The hat is still on Dan's head, and that's his baby, and it ain't going nowhere.
So Dan, running the back end and coding on one website wasn't enough. You just wanted to add more work to your plate, essentially.
Yeah. I wanted more fights with the missus over time spent on website instead of her. But no, I mean, to be fair, for the GeForce Now source website and for the parent website, it's pretty much just going to be the same website but with a different skin on it, and obviously all of the Stadia things stripped out and maybe some GeForce Now things added in. The parent website will kind of just be a portal to the child websites, with a few things extra thrown in as well. So it's not too much work to actually get the websites up and running. Obviously there's going to be a lot more effort required to keep up with all of the news and the reviews and stuff. But like I said, we have a team of people that, like Avery said, they don't just use Stadia, they use GeForce Now, they use Luna and all sorts as well. So we literally just did a head count and said, okay, who wants to do more than just Stadia? And it was pretty much unanimous across the board. Everybody wanted to expand, and we've kind of said, look, if you don't want to do anything but Stadia, then you can stick to Stadia. If you want to expand, then there's now flexibility to do so. And I think it's kind of reignited the passion for what we do a little bit more. We have months and weeks in Stadia where things are a bit stagnant, or we get an announcement that kind of bums people out a little bit. And, so or it might be that one of the other platforms has made a big move and we really want to talk about it, but we can't because we kind of have to approach it from does this impact Stadia? Otherwise we feel like we're talking about something that we're not actually supposed to be representing as much. So yeah, it's reinvigorated that passion, I think.
Yeah, and it's a really hard balance to kind of maintain as well. And I don't think people outside of content creation kind of understand that. Like, even with what we do here on the Nerf Report, I can post a video about Stadia and know that it's going to get X amount of views, X amount of this. But the moment that I post a video about PlayStation or Xbox or Nintendo, that Stadia audience looks at it and they're just kind of like, hey, what's going on with that? But the underlining is you also have people that are like, hey man, I'm more than one platform. I love that idea. I want to be able to talk about more games. And that's something that I've really kind of been focusing on personally is, the way that gamers are portrayed today is very black and white. It's one narrative, but it's very fluid. Like if you look at the mobile side of gaming, PUBG Mobile just hit like 5 billion downloads. No console has ever hit that number. So it's crazy to think that like when you see the narrative of Stadia's doomed or GeForce Now is doomed or Luna is doomed, it's like, guys, you're talking about something that is so new to the market. And it kind of boggles my mind sometimes.
I think if you look at the way that like children game, I mean, I've got 4 young nephews, 2 of which are old enough to like play games and stuff on phones and consoles and stuff now, and like they don't care where they play a game. They just pick up a phone and play Fortnite. Like I can't play Fortnite on a phone. Like I can barely play Fortnite at all. But like they don't care. They just pick up a game and they play it. And if they enjoy it, they keep playing. If they don't enjoy it, they move on to something else. So like you said, people have more than one console, more than one place to play. And with things like Stadia and GeForce Now, and Luna requiring little to no buy-in whatsoever console-wise. You literally, in some cases, you don't even need a controller. You can just use your Xbox controller or something, as long as you've got a PC or a phone to play it on. You know what I mean? Why wouldn't you have access to all of these platforms? The only thing you're paying really is a membership, and in terms of Stadia, you don't even need that, really. So
and for us, it was a logical step at this time. We're reaching the point where Stadia is approaching an early version of maturity. You still get the hit pieces on websites that I will not name, or you still get the Twitter haters, but we're almost seeing, I don't want to say parody, but we're seeing a point where Stadia gets about as much hate as everybody else. Stadia gets about as much love as everybody else, and we're having the number of plates in the air for a website as popular as Stadia Source to juggle or to spin is slowly reaching a reasonable level. We use your number one source for Stadia news and reviews as our tagline because we mean it. If you look at the site statistics, and I pull them up about once a week, Dan's made a handy dandy widget for us managers. We're crossing 3.6 million views in about a year. Or about 2 years. So that's, I don't know that the Stadia community blog gets that many hits. Maybe it does. Probably does. Maybe it does. But we have an axiom. I have way too many sayings. Y'all hear me say, a rising tide lifts all boats on our podcast all the time. I'll have a bunch more of those that don't really fit the podcast, but that work in our team. And one of them is be awesome where you are before you try to be awesome somewhere else. And I think we've pretty much reached a point where we feel like, and we think the community feels like, we're awesome at Stadia. Let's go see if we can be awesome with GeForce Now. Let's see if we can be awesome with gaming in general, and give it a shot and see what happens. We've reached that point where it's time. We've got the bigger runway. Let's see how we can fly.
Well, and I think one of the things that has been key to your guys' success, especially with the Roundtable podcast, is it's not just 1 or 2 people that are the same people every single week talking about things. You have such a wide variety of backgrounds, and you have such a wide variety of lifestyles and how people game, and then you have the guest spot as well. And now with adding Rock, I mean, that's a whole complete other side of of personality you're adding to the channel, and it does give the audience the chance to say, wow, I didn't think of it from Avery's perspective, or I didn't think of it from Scarlett's or Anthony's or anybody else's. I think that's one of the unique things about you guys is you have multiple voices underneath one banner.
And I will say that a lot of that is due to careful recruitment, shall we say. I think Dan and I had conversations very early in the process of me coming to him and saying, you know what, I think I could have a stream team. I think we can make that work. And Dan and I spoke very early on about, like, let's just be real. There are a lot of nerdy white guys with beard channels out there. A lot of them. I've got one. You've got one. That's the 3 of us right here are a sea of nerdy white guy with beard. Like,
well, and not to interrupt you, but God forbid you shave the beard, because then you just get nothing but hate.
No, it's baby face. I can't do that. It just makes the Jabba the Hutt thing go worse. So I said from day one, I want to find people who don't fit that mold. And I've got a mix. The very first streamer we added to the team was Felix Diaz, who is a proud Hispanic streamer, embraces that culture, embraces the Latino culture. We added Anthony, who's obviously part of the Black community. We've added Scarlett, who is one of the very few women in Stadia streaming and Stadia gaming. And of course, I love my other streamers. I love, Andrew and Dom and all the folks that I have. I'm sure I'm missing somebody, and they'll tell me when I realize it. But I wanted diversity, and I wanted to be able to have people from different points of views, and even the folks who, Andrew is a great example. Yeah, nerdy white guy with a beard, or I think he has a goatee. He lives in the middle of nowhere on satellite internet and somehow makes game streaming work. And he has a completely different perspective on it from the technical side. Dom works overnights for the NHS and it has a completely different perspective on what he's doing. So even when some of the voices, some of the faces are, their perspectives are different, and I love that. We have a very diverse channel in terms of LGBTQ representation. We have a very diverse channel in terms of background, socioeconomic, and that was a priority from moment one, because gamers are not all nerdy white guys with beards in their basement playing Xboxes. Surprise, surprise, there are plenty of queer gamers out there. There are plenty of, black, brown, and everything in between gamers. Plenty of women, plenty of men, plenty of trans gamers and non-binary. And I think that Gaming Source Network and Stadia Source has been a place where that can be heavily represented.
Well, and I think Well, and I definitely agree with you there. And I think that it just kind of keeps hitting home at that. Not every gamer is one size fits all. Like you said, it's easy for a bearded white guy to get in front of a camera and talk about video games. But there's also the side of it too that, the gaming media, or the people who are obsessed enough to care about gaming news, we're a very tight circle. We all know everything that's going on. We all follow the same people on Twitter. We're constantly seeing the same narrative. But there's that other side of gaming completely where they literally just play Call of Duty, and that's the only game that they play, or they play FIFA, and that's all they play. I had a friend come over, and they brought their son over, and he came into my office, and he's like, "Oh my God, you have a Stadia controller?" And I was like, "Yeah." And it's like, I always hear the narrative online that Stadia's dying, Stadia's dead. And then he came in and he's like, "Oh, I wish I had the internet to run this. I would love to get this." But I guess where I want to ask you to is, you guys have been involved as much as I am. The narrative of Stadia is dead. I mean, what do you think the future of Stadia is?
So, I mean, personally, it's just one of those things, because obviously we run in Stadia Source, we kind of have an investment in Stadia, so
Right.
we want it to succeed. And if it was to die tomorrow, obviously we'd all be gutted. And I think that's one of the things that people are going to think when we obviously switch everything over to GSN, when we start running GeForce Now and stuff like that, is that we're ditching Stadia, and we're not. We absolutely love Stadia, and I personally think it's going to prosper. I think it's going to carry on. There's a lot of people think it's going to go things like white label, white hat, what am I on about? I just think it's still in its early days at the moment. I don't quite think Google know where they want to take it, and they've had to learn a lot since launch, and we've seen them do U-turns with like Stadia Games and Entertainment, and we obviously had a lot of backlash about that. And what I've tried to do with things like that is just look at it from a different perspective and say, okay, if I was sat in that boardroom, with the people making those decisions, what do I think those reasons for making that decision would have been? Right. And that is obviously to try and use some of the money that they would have put into first party games, which may have been hit or miss, and take that money and put it into something that they know is going to be a hit. Like, look at the latest Resident Evil Village announcement. Resident Evil's tried and tested. It's You know what I mean? It's however years old now. It's every single game they release is pretty much sold well. So why not invest in a game that they know is going to make a good return on them? So I don't think it's dying. I don't whether it'll exist in its current format in the future. I don't know. I'd like to think that it remains its own platform and can obviously go up against the big dogs such as Microsoft and Sony. They've certainly got the money to put behind it and the infrastructure to do so. It's just whether they can obviously get the right people in the right jobs, and if they are willing to probably put, you know what I mean, an investment into it that I don't know what I'm trying to say here.
No, I mean, I think you're onto a good point, especially from the business side of things. Is that, anytime that spending gets out of control, the number one thing that a company has to do to survive is to get lean, and getting rid of Stadia games and entertainment. For me, company saying, "Hey, we're onto something here, but we need to cut spending if we're going to survive." This is about the long game. Avery, I'm interested to hear what you have to say. I mean, if you were promoted tomorrow as the head of Stadia Games and Entertainment, in your eyes, I mean, what do you think the future of Stadia is?
I actually wrote an editorial on this subject at Stadia Source, and essentially my philosophy on this is Stadia is going to die eventually. Like, it's gonna happen. Everything moves on. All technology changes. That doesn't necessarily mean that Stadia cloud gaming from Google goes away. The Xbox original died. It was then replaced by the Xbox 360. The Xbox 360 died. Then they came out with the Xbox One. The Xbox One died. Then they came out with and that's how technology works. That's how iteration works. So Stadia, as we know it today, might not be around in 5 years, 10 years, 2 years. But that doesn't mean that Google has decided they're just going to chuck the hundreds of millions of dollars of investment that they've made. Every single one of those Stadia blades cost money. All of the tech that they built cost money. Every man hour they poured into developing anti-latency tech costs money. And Google is not a company that throws their money away. That's not to say they don't close projects. They absolutely do. They do it all the time. I still miss you, Google Reader, but the tech lives on. YouTube Music is currently what Google Play Music was. A lot of people will say, I don't really like YouTube Music. They got rid of this favorite feature of mine and it didn't pan out. But a lot of the tech that made Google Play Music work, and the royalty agreements and the streaming agreements and all those kind of things, carried into the current platform. You look at Inbox. I loved Inbox. Inbox was one of my favorite Google features of all time. Loved it, loved it, loved it. Inbox died. It's in the Google graveyard, which, if any of you have ever watched any of my shows, you know I hate that phrase because it's not real. But a lot of the features that Inbox had, such as snoozing and the labeling and all those kind of things, made their way to Gmail Core.
Yeah, I mean, I talked about it on a show last week, but I was like, I just got done watching that new documentary on Netflix called The Last Blockbuster. And, there was a point in time when if you were to go into a Blockbuster and be like, hey man, 5 years from now, this isn't going to be a thing. People would have been like, you're out of your mind. How am I going to watch this? And it's just
I
nothing
worked
is
at Hollywood Video for 2 years as a shift leader. I still, somewhere in a closet, I probably still have the purple shirt before they went crazy. And like, so yeah, like, of course you're gonna have DVD rental forever, right?
They literally just knocked down like the building where the Blockbuster used to be where I live. The building's been there derelict for ages. I think they tried to turn it into a carpet place for a short period of time. Over the last like 3 or 4 days, they've literally knocked that building down. So,
Oh man. Well, I guess from the future of Stadia, let's talk about the future of what you guys are doing. So, Gaming Source Network. Underneath that umbrella, you will have Stadia Source. You're going to have GeForce Source. And then I guess the big announcement that you guys also made is that Rock will be coming underneath that umbrella to create content as well. So without spilling all of the juicy details of what's going on behind the scenes, what else do you guys plan on launching with Gaming Source Network?
So that is a great question. As you mentioned, Rock is joining the team. To be precise, he's bringing a couple of his shows onto the network, Cloudburst being one of them, and then we've got some other things in the works that you'll be hearing from Rock on GSN pretty soon. And of course, he and I, we love being on shows together. So a couple
Well,
of
and
things
if
in
I
the
can
works.
make a suggestion, if you don't mind, that guy has a voice smooth as silk. Whatever you do, just use the voice properly. I want a news show where Rock sits there in front of a fireplace, opens up a tablet, and just reads the news while drinking brandy, and that's all it
bedtime
is.
stories.
Rock's bedtime stories. Rock and Dominic, one of our streamers, together would be the ASMR magic moment for all. We also have some other shows in the works. There's another big announcement that's coming out pretty soon. No spoilers on that, but let's just say bringing people into the network, we're not done yet. So we've got some other cool stuff coming in that regard. We do have some other shows in the works developed, both podcast form and video form. Lots of good stuff. And of course, the website is, Gaming Source Network on YouTube is growing and growing and growing. But we're not done on the desktop side either. If you head to stadiasource.com, it is still, Dan is constantly, there's a little jingle that I make up every week on the show called Stuff Dan added to the website that he didn't tell anyone about. And I need to codify that into a real thing because Dan keeps adding more stuff to stadiasource.com, and now he has a whole nother platform to do that with. Not to mention, whatever comes in the future of obviously the parent website and things of that nature. So it only gets bigger and better from here.
I'm terrible for that. I mean, I would just launch a feature and not tell anybody about it. And then it's not until Avery goes onto the podcast, he goes onto the website and he's like, oh, hey, that looks different. I'm never happy, if you know what I mean. Like I just look at something and think I could do that better, and then I'll spend like the next 2 or 3 days or something wanting to chuck my computer out of the window, trying to make it better. And yeah, like Avery said, I've got a new platform to do that on, and I'm excited to kind of sink my teeth into what GeForce Now can offer. And obviously, eventually in the future, if this does go to plan and it does become successful as we've planned, then there's no reason why we can't expand to other platforms as well. And similarly, I get to do it all over again. So
yeah, I think going back to something you said earlier, I mean, it's tough from a content creator's perspective because, and you hit it perfectly, was that one of the benefits of Stadia is there's not a lot of people talking about Stadia. So when you post something, it's sure to be seen. But for someone who might be watching and thinking, well, why aren't you guys doing PlayStation Source? Or why aren't you doing Xbox Source or Nintendo Source or anything like that? YouTube PlayStation News or Xbox News, there's thousands of other channels that you're competing with. I mean, I saw something the other day that said YouTube had like 500 million gaming channels posting on their site. Within there's at least, I would say, 1 million PlayStation News sites. So I think focusing on that cloud side as well is smart because cloud's emerging. It's a new form of tech. New forms of tech are always going to have constant news coming out. It's exciting, and there's less people talking about it. So from an awareness perspective, you immediately can jump to the top and be the next king of GeForce or the king of Stadia or king of Luna or whatever you decide to do.
yeah,
We will.
I mean, I also want to kind of just sneak these in here a little bit. It's just a shout out to obviously to Rock, who hosts our website for us very graciously, and also to Scarlett as well, because like the amount of work that Scarlett has put into everything she's ever done at Stadia Source, ever since she was a guest on our podcast to begin with. And I think literally during the podcast or shortly after, we were talking, as you said, in the background after the show, and it's like, let's ask Scarlett if she wants to be part of the team. Like, she is absolutely amazing. She does all the merch, like she designed this hat and various other merch that we've got as well, and more coming out soon. She's also a streamer as well. She's had to kind of put that on the back burner for a little bit as well. She's done all of our graphics, all of our thumbnails, all of our logos. She basically gives like 110% in everything that she does for us. So I want to give her obviously a massive shout out as well. On top of that, you know what I mean? She's a mother, she's a wife. She has
small business owner
of her own, small business owner. Like, she's superhuman. So,
right.
And
Yeah,
yeah, go ahead.
I was saying all of the graphics that you've seen now across our socials, across the website, the banners, the logos, the artwork, it all originated with Scarlett, and so much of it was there's a freedom in saying, go for it. We think you do a great job. Go for it. And that's what we told Scarlett. We said, cool. We'd love to see what you have. And what she's never, not once, come back with anything that didn't blow us away. Not a single design she's ever made. You should see the branding guide. GSN has a branding guide with like, you must allow this much space between the edge of the logo and the edge of the print. And if you're using it on a font above this, like, it's insane how good of a job she does. So I'm right there with Dan. We could not have done the GSN launch. We could not have done GeForce Now Source without her as a part of everything that we're doing.
I don't want anybody to feel left out, but I obviously wanted to give like Avery a praise, you know what I mean, for all he does on the podcast and just all of the ideas and stuff that he comes to me with, and for poking me in the right direction, because sometimes I'm a bit hesitant or like, I'm not quite sure. I've never kind of done anything this big before. But yeah, all of the streamers that put time in out of their day, again, as we've said before, they've all got lives, and all of the people that write reviews, all of the people that write the news for us, we've got an absolutely splendid team of people, and they're a pleasure to work alongside, and obviously to chat with in private in the Slack as well. So.
And we've built a manager core that really is dedicated to they're up for whatever we want to throw at them. Additional shouts out to, of course, Lee Reed, our news manager. A lot of folks don't realize that Lee is probably half the articles that you read on the website come from Lee. And he manages, of course, the news team, and we have other writers that produce content as well. But we'll just notice that a tweet went out, and it's because Lee wrote another article, posted it out. Dan kind of does the same thing too, as editor-in-chief. But we also have Callum, who is our reviews manager. Callum kind of stepped up. We had the opening on the team in the reviews side, and Adam, who was our previous reviews manager. So folks might know him, Original Penguin, the guy that does the pixel counts on Stadia videos. Fantastic guy. Stepped away for personal reasons. We love him. We miss him. But Callum stepped up into that role, and young guy has done a great job at making sure the reviews are getting out the door, and doing what they do. And of course, Shadow Grim, aka Tim, our social media manager, has also done a fantastic job in keeping those tweets rolling and managing not only Twitter, which is our primary platform, but also Facebook and Instagram. We're on Instagram. If you guys didn't know, you can totally follow us there, and it's because of Tim as well. So
yeah, so I guess if somebody's watching this and they want to join the Dream Team stream team, or they want to help you guys out with reviews or writing articles, where should they go?
The easiest way to do that, if you say, you know what, I love what Gaming Source Network is all about, let's talk. At the bottom of StadiaSource.com, as well as GeForce Now Source, and we'll be getting into the GSN's website soon. there is a Meet the Team button, and you will see our management team on there. But basically, if you're interested, if you say, you know what, I got a podcast idea and I'd love a place to put it, find me on Twitter at CharmCityA. If you're like, you know what, I think I would be a darn good writer of reviews, find Callum. He's at XBE Games, I believe. Lee is at C_Troot. Good luck spelling that. And of course, you can find all these links from the Meet the Team. And you said, I would love to be a part of this team. We're generally always on the lookout for talented writers who can do reviews or who can do news coverage or editorials. I'm always on the lookout for streamers. I am particularly interested in BIPOC streamers, Black Indigenous people of color. I'm particularly interested in LGBTQ streamers. I'm particularly interested in women, trans, or non-binary streamers. I love my guys on the Dream Team, but I would love to see more voices get elevated, and we have a platform to do that. So absolutely, hit us up on Twitter, email us, find us on the Meet the Team page.
Well, guys, I am extremely excited to see. I would love to follow up in 6 months, have a conversation again, and see what has changed, what you guys have learned, or where you're headed next. So I just want to say thank you for you guys coming on the show. And if you want to find more information about these two, please head on over to Twitter and check out Gaming Source Network along with GeForce Source and Stadia Source. Until next time, thank you guys so much for watching. My name is Bryant, and this has been the Nerf Report. Thanks for watching. Hey, thanks again for checking out our channel. If you like what you saw and you want to see more content just like it, which who wouldn't, hit the subscribe button right there. And while you're down there, hit the like button. Maybe even consider becoming a Nerf Report best friend, just like the people listed down below did. In fact, don't you want to see your name there? I know I do.